Thank you, Carol. We got minutes from the November 21st. Morning, Lynn. Motion to approve the November 21st minutes by Lynn. Second by Tom. All in favor?
Yes.
We are unanimous. We have an agenda for today. Any additions to the agenda? Any walk-ins? No walk-ins. I have a few just announcements. Some questions, I guess. Motion by Martin to approve the agenda with additions. Second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous. Well, I'll just get into my announcements here then. The Governor's Gala. We got 4 tickets. Who's interested? Anybody interested? Carol? Cool. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Jimmy?
Think about why she left.
Jimmy. Jimmy plus 1. Carol plus 1. Bing? Well, that takes care of our 4 tickets to the gala. Cool. Appreciate that. Okay. Are we decided then? Okay. So we'll Jimmy in 1 and Bing in 1. That'll work. Len, did you figure out when Cheryl's funeral will be for the half mast? Not yet? Not yet. Okay. I see the Rich Jensen was on Lake County's planning board. And my question is whether we want to continue him with the planning board.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I make the motion to reappoint Rich to the Lake County Planning Board.
Motion by Tom, second by Lynn. All in favor of Rich being on the Lake County Planning Board? I think we're unanimous. We got a thank you from Mission Valley Food Pantry for the $500 donation we made to them. So that was nice. And then one other thing that was in the mail was Brigadier General William Hannon has taken over the U.S. Army Corps Engineers headquartered in Portland area, the Northwestern Division. And he wanted to say hello, and he'll probably contact us sometime, maybe come see us. So we got a new head man in the Northwestern Division, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Anybody have anything? Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we were talking about the gift that keeps giving with promoting solar panels and tribal member households, there was an additional grant, basically a subaward advertisement from an outfit out of California, I think, but they got a big chunk of the money of the climate change funding that came through the Bills Act or Reduction Act. And so I think it's like per tribal community, it's around $250,000 or $300,000. I just forwarded it to you, Mike, and Zach and Brian and Jordan, and so there might be a possibility there or something additive. Be good to get going on it. I'm not sure if the core funding comes from EPA, but they already awarded out this big chunk of money to everybody, and that's like the Solar for All. There's just a whole bunch of grant applications, and they had big awards, and that's where Montana got theirs. Montana got one, which can serve tribal communities. So they have a Solar for All grant in Montana, and I think we have a tribal member that's actually working on that one. Is that the one? Yeah, yeah. He left housing, went for that. Yeah. So that's another one we could partner with to try to, bankroll a little bit more of our refund from the low cost consumer block funding that we were talking about. So I think there's a clause of funding. I just don't know in the future what's going to happen to EPA. Probably not much. They may claw back a lot of money. I don't know, but these monies have already been awarded, so there's a chance to get that. Anyway. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I know UCUT had invited us to participate. We were doing other things, so we never did. But they got some of that solar for all money.
There was one conglomerate that funded, they're doing solar panels in Northern Cheyenne Reservation in Montana as their lead project. And we're inclusive in that if we want to apply to that group too. So these are like big awards, like 150 million, each one of these different ones. And then when I was looking at the one list, it looked like we qualified for at least 4 of those. We could apply to their individual granting. Thank you.
Martin?
I do have a call into Nolan. I got his info and left him a message today. It may be out until Monday, I'm guessing.
Jen?
Well, just kind of following with what Tom said, when I was at the STED Commission meeting, there was a guy there from the USDA talking about the Rural Energy for America program. And he said he would be willing to come here to Tribal Council and talk to us about that, or anybody here who's interested in that, applying for that grant. And so the USDA has $145 million to fund 7 loan and grant awards to help ag producers and rural small business owners make energy efficient improvements and renewable energy investments. So they really want to work with tribes. And then the woman who was with him at the meeting was from the Technical Assistance Center. So there's free help in applying for this money. So if anyone's interested, someone will sit down with them from the Technical Assistance Center and walk them through the process. But they really want to make sure some of this money goes to tribes or Native people.
Good, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe Janet and Velda could apply for something like that to put solar panel array at the new meat processing facility. They'll bring down the cost. Yeah. Mr. Chair, looking at first item on the agenda reminds me of Joe Durgalow's letter that he drafted to go out to potential Medicare A and B recipients for the Medicare B reimbursement program. So in the mailing of the elders assistance or payment, it would be good to throw that letter in that. Because that would be all the potential people that would qualify. But again, they'd have to make sure that it's very clear in that letter that it's only for the elders that are within the CSKT healthcare coverage area. And I can't remember if Joe had that in his letter or not. Do you remember, Carol? Did you see that? But it would be great to finalize that resolution that Joe brought in before the letter goes out.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
if we could just do that, that would be great. Pull it up and just put some dates on it. Go for it. Thank you.
Well, we're well ahead of schedule already. Go ahead, Len.
So the issue that Tom just brings up regarding the solar panels, who within our organization do we assign that to? Any ideas?
I know Tom was talking about maybe that's Mike Durglow thing. The other day, I don't know.
Well, the other big grant came in and we're trying to find someone to apply for it. And I believe Jody stepped up and at SNK Housing and did the application. It was broader than their normal scope because it included everybody, not just the housing authority customer base. So that's why they were reluctant in the beginning. But then I think they did go forward and they got an award. And I think that's the transition that we lost our employee to the state because he was familiar with the solar program. I'm just assuming that. They pickled our guy. But as far as new awards, I mean, it's like, that's just it. A lot of these things come up and unless some program is at that level, they're doing 110%, they're looking for more, they want to do more, they're that exceptional staff person that's looking to do a lot of programs. Just they're so thin, they don't want to take on more tasks if they don't have more staffing to do it. So they're reluctant sometimes to add more funding to their program element. But if you have a new program, say like Mike and climate change coordinator, I don't know, it seems to me like, solar energy would reduce these people's consumption of carbon producing energy like propane or oil in their heating in their home, provide more resources for tribal members and lowering their power bill, their electric power bill. Those are all good things. And I think it would fit under Mike. You want to, do new stuff under Mike. But that's part of his program function is to make us prepared how we adapt as we go forward in climate change scenario. Because there's no turning it back. It's moving forward. It's how we can adapt and provide our citizenship of our tribes the ability to cope with it and mitigate the activity. That would be solar panels.
Does Mike have a staff?
Mike does not have a staff that I know of. I think it's just Mike.
The only other possible is if we were to expand what EKI does. Actually do it through the corporation rather than through the government. That would be a possibility too. Pardon?
SNK Holdings might be something, I mean, that's kind of what I thought their purpose was initially was to develop businesses and, help small businesses, but there's no reason why they couldn't do the research at least. James seems pretty capable, but don't want to pull him off the other. His Elmo project.
Yeah, these are all great ideas, and I just want us to see us move forward on them. But I want to see a plan. I want to see somebody to take the lead and get it done for us. Otherwise, we'll talk about this all day. So,
Well, this conversation this morning has been good in actually identifying maybe 4 or 5 different areas where money could be had if we can get those listed and what the possibility is for applying for those. Maybe the application, the money there will have an ability to actually hire into one of the programs. So I will actually collect all those ideas on where the money's all at to get that thing started. Do that. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. I mentioned before that there's the one board I sit on is the Wildlife Restoration Foundation. And the consultant that works for our Interagency Bison Management Plan Partners Group for the Yellowstone Bison. She's the chairperson of the other foundation, but she's pretty much bison centric. She's done a lot of work in Indian country with bison, with the Dakota tribes, the Blackfeet tribes, and others, and us. We are putting together a workshop symposium the first week of April in Loveland, Colorado. And so they are seeking sponsorships. If the tribe's interested in sponsoring any amount at all. It is a workshop that'll be fully comprehensive from wildlife management of bison to basically stockyard management of bison to the effects of bison on the landscape, disease management, plant and animal communities. It's a really comprehensive week-long workshop. And so if I get the agenda finalized with them, we had a meeting last Friday, I could present it to council, and I would request at least my ability to go and probably Bing if you wanted to go, because ITBC will be part of it also, and a whole bunch of our agency partners. And then probably it'd be good to have, I'm sure Whisper probably will want to have someone from wildlife go, but if we're thinking about having our own production herd, then maybe someone from lands or economic development would be good to go also, because it's going to be that kind of a comprehensive workshop. It's not a complete waste of time. So I plan on driving down there, but you can fly into Denver. It's only an hour out of Denver, so people can fly in if they want to. So just give you a heads up, and as we develop and finalize the agenda, there is a draft agenda and a flyer that I've been shopping around to get some funders with Native Americans of Philanthropy and some other folks to see if they could sponsor scholarships for some tribes to come and reduce the costs. But it's at the county fairgrounds facility. It's huge, and so there's no limitations on participation. It's unlimited head count.
And when was it?
April 1st through April 5th, I think. First week April.
April Fool's Day.
Yep.
And then Ruthie's on whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I see that. I guess we can get to that. Good morning, Ruth. We'll go ahead with you if you're ready. You're on mute, Ruth, if you're trying. There you go. Good morning.
Good morning. It's trying to, when you're operating on your phone, it's a lot different from your desktop. Yes, good morning, council. The action before you is to establish the payment and processing for the upcoming elders benefit. We would do that effective January 2nd, 2025. And the deadline to submit their applications would be December 24th. The payment would be $600. We're estimating about 1,500 eligible elders for the upcoming payment.
Any other questions?
Question,
Ruth?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ruth, what's the age on that? Someone was asking me that the other day and I didn't know.
They have to be 65 by December 31st of this year.
Limch.
Oh, no. I've got one more year.
I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Martin. Second by Tom. All in favor for proceeding with the elders payment? Unanimous. Thank you, Ruth.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Ruth. Ruth, you still there?
Yes.
Go ahead, Tom.
Ruth, I was going to call you actually yesterday on this one, but it has to do with an award we got from the America Beautiful grant, some of the, the rate funding that's come through. But it was a package deal with our tribes, natural resource department, maybe forestry, and then the Crown of the Continent was part of it, entity, and it's like a $3 million grant, and our indirect was our normal indirect on it. But the chair of the Crown of the Continent was concerned that their award, because they're connected to the University of Montana, that their part of it, which is about $700,000, that they will be going after a 50% indirect on that. And she was hoping that we had some policy that would prohibit that from happening. Do you know of anything like that, Ruth?
Wow, that's what I was understanding, and the Contracts and Grants Office would be the best place to answer that question. I have heard that universities like U of M may have an inordinately high indirect cost or overhead rate as compared to ours. And what I'm understanding about the America the Beautiful is that majority of that is contracted out to other parties, and CSKT as the grantee is largely going to be the pass-through. So yeah, they would be able to answer that more fully than I can.
Okay, thanks, Ruth.
You bet.
Thank you, Ruth. Have a good
You're
day.
welcome. Thank you.
Was Mike Derglo going to be on or in? After her right now. Okay, that'll work. Mike's issue has solar panels in it too. Already getting money for solar panels, it looks like.
In the business.
Yeah.
Okay, tell
And maybe he'll be telling us. Come on up, Melinda.
Esquex. So, I'm here this morning to get approval for a project-specific agreement with Montana Department of Transportation. This one is for a project by Finley Point. We're going to be widening for a northbound left turn lane. This PSA is just for the pre-construction consultant work only. So when they're ready for construction, I'll be coming back later to get another project-specific agreement done for the construction work. So they did include a map where they're going to be working on the kind of just by, I guess the Finley Point Grill and Finley Point Road was where they're going to be putting this, where they plan on putting this left turn lane in.
Questions?
They carve a road up to the tower site.
Yeah, so I don't know what, if they have anything else that they're gonna address in this one, but I guess they did find that there does need to be, due to safety reasons, there does need to be a left turn lane put in there, so.
Entertain a motion to approve the project-specific agreement. Motion by Tom, second by Martin. All in favor? We're unanimous. Thank you,
All right.
Melinda.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm just gonna come up and get your signature on this, Mike.
We can do that. Get the right spot.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And in there,
Everybody's getting really nervous.
that fire station's right there, isn't it?
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Take that out.
I guess we'll have a 10-minute break till Mike Durglow's available. Morning, Mike. Martin will be right in, so we can get started. Uh, It's better than some of the other options.
Cutsquext. Kisu Quickenham. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing us to be on council agenda in short notice. And first of all, I want to apologize, not to just to you all, but to Kelly especially. I was under the understanding that we were working on a letter of interest when we started this process. And then last Thursday, everything was due. So Kelly Kelly worked hard with both Jody and Tony and myself to get this application submitted. I realized that that's not the process, the proper process, and I assure you that it will never happen again. This grant opportunity was presented to me, I don't know, Tony, about a month ago maybe or so. We've been working on this for a while, couple months. So what it is, and it's pretty self-explanatory, I think, if you have any questions, it's working together with Salish Kootenai Housing Authority, myself, and Salish Kootenai College. We're putting in for almost a $20 million grant through EPA. It's a 3-year grant. It's a partnership between the three of us, basically the tribe, housing, and the college. What we would like to do if we get the grant is, my part of it would be solar, install solar units on homes and businesses. Look at some of the tribal owned businesses. And also, Tony's part would be, and he could speak for his part, but building workforce development at the college. I had a guy come up to my house to look at my house because I wanted to install solar. Well, you got to look at your roof. How soon are you going to have to replace, or can you even put the solar panels on your roof to begin with, or do you have to replace it first? We want to talk about some, maybe those panels where they stand alone. But we also talked about, working with housing to replace roofs. So that part of housing would be roof replacement. Replacing some of the old, wood burning stoves with some more efficient ones. Understandingly that, some of the elders that have those old wood stoves love those old wood stoves and they don't wanna part with them. But I don't know if we can upgrade them, the stove itself, and make it more efficient for them, in that way, but, you have anything to add? Any
No.
question?
Go ahead, Len.
Well, I got a lot of questions here, but, we were just talking about this here just earlier this morning. How would we determine whose house would we be adding solar to? Would that be a tribal member or just people in the community? Everybody in the community is eligible for this or?
Yeah, we thought maybe because like with housing, they have, first of all, low income folks, and then, of course, elders and veterans. They would be first.
Okay,
But, other people, so if I have $10 million and, if I provide $15,000 vouchers to whoever, wants to install solar, I don't know, I'm thinking that, that might be 50, 100 people. So you would be able to apply, or me, or,
Yeah.
or anybody would be able to apply for a voucher to help to install the solar. We want to get to a point where the college has classes for electricians. I mean, you have to have electricians, plumbers, if we're gonna put ground source heat pumps. The whole, you have to maintain them. So that's what the college is gonna be doing, working on that part.
providing a trade classes.
Trade, yes, trade, good.
Yes, and the college isn't prepared right now to do all of the trades. We've had construction in the past where we've offered, the tiny house program that we've had. We have the welding that we've partnered with the tribe on. We have a few of these trades or, workforce development programs, but we have several grants right now already in place that we're developing more. And we have it's already out, I think, on our website. We're trying to find a construction manager person that can actually develop an entire program around construction, which is what Mike's talking about. Solar is one thing that we've been looking into. We have a grant right now that's what we're looking at for 2 years, is determining what is the workforce that's there and is there a market for the students to go to. We don't want to train students that then can just go install solar panels and it's a 5-month job and then they're out of work for 7 months. That's not what we want to do.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that they can also do, some geothermal, or they can do some assessment of insulation, or they can do other things during the rest of their time, throughout the year. So these might be little micro credentials where you get you can do stackable things where you can do one little thing in solar, and then you might be able to do something in geothermal, and then you might be able to do something in installation. So we know that this is something that we're moving towards based on what the community has asked us for. We're doing assessments right now. Some of the programs like the welding, it comes and goes. And the construction we're trying to do right now, we do not have a solar program at this point. And so the idea of this grant was, and I have a couple other grants that can also supplement that or help out, is that we want to develop a program that meets the needs that the tribe has, the community has, and that the job force is actually going to sustain. It doesn't do us any good to build a program, have 2 students go through it, and then we flooded the market, if that's what it is. And I don't know if that's what it is. If Mike does his job well, we're going to have lots of solar panels on lots of homes going into the future. So,
Okay, what kind of timeframes we looking at here? I mean, what did they tell you when they would notify you when they would award the grant or?
I know that we also put one in at the college.
Okay.
As a primary, and then this is the one for the tribe as the primary. We put ours in to start in January. I think there's going to be a quick turnaround. I don't know that, but I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere between January and June is when
Okay.
we will find out about this. So it should be a fairly quick turnaround with EPA on this grant. Yeah, that's.
Go ahead, Martin, then Tom.
So Mike, did I hear you right that this is already submitted? Like you submitted this last Thursday?
Yes.
What, they didn't require a resolution or a letter
No.
of support or anything?
It did not require a resolution. It's always good to have a resolution. And we did, Jody put together a resolution to have, so I don't know, wanna,
Yes, so just for you guys to know the backstory, and I'm sorry I'm late, you guys are early, it just surprises me. So Kristen McClure is Janine Allard's daughter. So she is a descendant who was raised on this reservation, and she works for Tetra Tech, who is an environmental, I don't know, even like a corporation. And she's like an environmental, do you know what yeah, like a biologist type. And so she works in the world where it's kind of the mainstream. And she saw this funding opportunity and it was up to $20 million. And so she was going around trying to find somebody who she could help apply for this because she wanted the funds to come to the tribe because it's $20 million. And so she reached out to me and I was like, doesn't really fit me. And she just pushed and pushed and pushed. And we talked about how this could be connected to housing. And we thought about the home improvement program. And so she was like, well, you could do clean air, you can update the stoves. So you could replace old stoves with more high efficient stoves. And so that's where it started. And she's very heartwarming, like pressure to apply for this grant. And then we found out that nobody, well, there was Mary Rose Morjo had talked about doing it, but then she never did. You know, it didn't come together. They talked about like Salish Point doing it. They talked about doing a warming center. So there was all these different possibilities of the grants that the tribe would be applying for. None of them materialized. So that meant nobody at the tribe was going to be applying. And then I was like, well, it really should be a tribal applicant, not SCAHA, because it's not in my wheelhouse, but home improvement is one of the activities, and that is my wheelhouse. So we asked Mike to jump on board, and he was like, well, I'm a one-man show, and I have 20 other grants, but it's $20 million, and so he was willing to help be the lead applicant. And then we pulled in SKC, who was already doing their other grant because they had applied. And so Tony started coming to the meetings, and it's only been within like the last month that we really got stuff done and ironed out what the projects would look like, who was going to be doing what. And we never had a grant writer, so Tetra Tech wrote this grant for us for free, which is a value, I'm sure, of at least probably $30,000 that they did out of the kindness of their hearts. So the way that it played out was kind of beyond our control. Tony repeatedly was like, we should have these agreements in place by now. And he was trying to push them. And yeah, I think Mike had said maybe 3 weeks ago, I should bring this to council and let them in the loop. But we didn't have any of the documents together because we weren't drafting them. Tetra Tech was drafting them. And they finished drafting it through the night on Wednesday. And so it was, must have been Monday. I was like, we should give Kelly a heads up. And I got chewed out from Kelly when I feel like we're stuck in the middle and we are just trying to help this project move forward to potentially get $20 million for the tribe. And just the way that it unfolded was kind of beyond our control because we were not driving the ship. We're just trying to help us get there. So I am sorry on how it played out. we tried to tell Tetra Tech this is the normal processes, but I am not familiar with the way that you guys operate with the contracts and grants because I do my own. And I've been informed by Jennifer that I need to have it, any resolutions the week before they're needed so that it can go through the process. But I've never had to utilize Kelly's assistance because I don't work here. I work over there. So anyway, we knew that it wasn't exactly following the procedure, but we were happy they were trying to help us. And it did put Kelly in a pickle. But it was $20 million.
Other questions? Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Really glad to see the college doing that type of workforce development. I know that the facilities manager was in here the other day and said having people trained on how to operate the HVAC systems and maintain those is really critical too. So, having that full suite to keep someone in that discipline, working 12 months out of the year is great. I really appreciate that. So I'm glad that's part of this grant. Absolutely. As far as, going to the question that Len said, I mean, there's two things here that are critical for me. First is reducing our carbon footprint. And then low income people that are dealing with high energy costs and our tribal citizenship. So when you look at your priorities, I would suggest that if someone has an oil heat system, that you give them priority no matter what their income level is to get that out of there and switch over to something that's less carbon related, and then go to your other categories. That's what I would make a priority, at least, because it's not that many. And so it wouldn't make any difference what their income level is. Just give them that nudge that they might do this. And it's really critical because our power bills are going to be going up, our electric bills are going to be going up. And so, putting the solar panels on homes or in their yards or wherever is really something that keeps on giving. And so that's what we were talking about earlier this week and this morning was how do we really get this going? So your timing is perfect. I know that EPA is stressed whether they'll exist. And I know that it's a real effort going on to get money out the door so it doesn't get clawed back. So, yeah, I would certainly forgive you for anything, even though you've been working on it for a while, but get it in because this is it's a critical support thing for our tribes. And so I just fully support it. There are some other funds out there that have already been awarded that are sub things. And so I just shared one with your supervisor, Mike, on what's it called? Something next. Can't remember what it's called. Let me look it up real quick. It's Climate United Next Grants. And we would qualify for a $300,000 grant right now that just went out. They'll be making that decision on it at the end of next month. It's a quick turnaround. But some of that money that went out to these different entities is phenomenal. Like the state of Montana, just a bunch of it looked like there was like 4 or 5 that we would qualify for that have already been major recipients of, hundreds of millions of dollars each that I would certainly like to see us apply for. So what we were trying to do, and thank you for stepping up, Mike, is think of somebody that would fit some of these things and you're the guy. So, actually, if you get more of these grants, maybe you can get some more staff, Okay, all right. Yeah, I see that. I was looking at the salaries. But it does need to be coordinated in a good fashion and make sure we don't miss out on anything. I know when you apply for things, it's more work and don't have a lot of workforce. I think Jody explained that really well to us. Be careful what you ask for, you might get it. And then how do you do it? It's just really a struggle at times with your limited workforce to take on more responsibilities and more funding. It's a bittersweet thing. And, but you're a new program, so go for it. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks for that, Tom. I appreciate it. And like Jody said, I'm a one-man shop. So sometimes it's like I'm already managing 5 or 6 grants already, and do I need more stress? I just want, since Kelly's here, I want to apologize to Kelly again, and just let you know that I promise that this will never happen again. With that being said, I think you guys know that I was appointed to serve on the Advisory Council for Climate Adaptation and Science by Secretary Holland. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting, in-person meeting in Minneapolis. And the discussion was around the fact, of course, it was pretty sad and somber because it was a couple days after the election and everybody was bummed and wondering what the hell. But the discussion was just like what you're talking about, Tom, and how are we going to get these funds out the door in the next couple of months? So there's going to be a lot of money available. And one of the things as part of serving on the council is working with all of the CASCs and developing guidance for the CASCs, Climate Adaptation and Science Centers. Around the United States, there's 9 of them. But the other part is being able to identify the needs of the tribes. Of course, a big need is capacity and funding. The other thing with the advisory council is they were trying to get an act passed called the CASC Act. And what that would do is make it easier for USGS and other agencies to move funding to tribes to do projects. So that, that made me think, well, how do we streamline our process in order to get that money? How do we do that? It's like just something I thought about. That's all I had. Thank you.
Well, I guess the ask is to approve the application for this grant after the fact. Motion by Tom. Second by Danielle. All in favor? Unanimous. Go get us $20 million.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair. Okay. Tom, then Martin.
I just have a question for contracts and grants. Because I asked this question to Ruthie and it had to do with subawards. And so the America Beautiful grant we got, you know that one? So part of that is Crown of the Continent. Mike knows Crown of the Continent. So I think $700,000 is going to be shifted their way. No?
No, it's not possible because they don't exist as a legal entity on paper.
So it's going to go to the University of Montana.
It has to. That's the only way to do the project, and we're working through the logistics of that.
So is there any way that we can put in an action to limit their indirect? So it's not that huge 50% indirect. Can we do an after the fact thing? Can we set our own policy right now?
I went through the FFATA. I was looking through the regulations on that, and I looked at our actual agreement. The way that it reads, they should actually have to be capped at the 17.75%, which is what the grant was at when it was put in.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they have been advised that about 700,000 is all they get. We can't take money from other parts of the project to give to them for IDC. So I've been working with Sean DeFrance to
make it clear, the
get through
University of Montana, I mean, if you would draft a resolution saying that you can only accept up to what our award
that's
was,
what our contract.
then they would get the marching orders and they wouldn't try to go after the 50%.
Yes, because that was a point of contention.
What's your indirect there, Tony?
Well, ours is just dropped from 24 to 21.9.
That's more reasonable.
Much of the COVID money got put into categories that then cost us money. And so when we did our 5-year renewal, it just dropped recently. I think it was in July, we got our new NICRA, negotiated indirect cost rate agreement.
Cool.
So,
Oh, anyway, the director or the lead person, Erin Sexton, was concerned about that she couldn't afford with that budget to carve off 50% of it to University of Montana overhead. So there's anything we need to do to make sure that doesn't happen, then please bring it in.
We have a meeting, Sean and I, we have a meeting on December 3rd with Zoe. She is our contact at NIFWIF, and we are going through those details with her. This has been an interesting grant so far, trying to figure out all of the logistics. It would have been nice to know that the Crown of the Continent didn't actually exist on paper, because they're the person that's named in the grant throughout for doing this work. And we got to the time to do the subrecipient agreements. That was the first one we were doing, and yeah, found out they don't exist.
Yeah, I don't recall them ever setting themselves up as an official nonprofit entity. Anyway, thank you. That was my question. So I'm glad you're on top of it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tony.
I don't know if it's pertinent, but I just thought I would give you a slight update since it's relevant to the other community change grant. But we also put in as the prime for a $20 million community change grant. And I just thought I would let you know that we submitted it about a month ago, I think, but that grant is intended to create a career technical education center. And so it's aligned with this grant because we're limited on space for being able to do solar welding, those types of things, and having a truck here or putting it in the back of a space there is what we're doing right now. As you know, our automotive was over here with DHRD, and we had to do bring in water for cleaning stations and a porta potty because we didn't have anything, right? And then our construction is just out under some power lines. We're building some tiny houses, but when it rains, it's really hard to build. So having this facility would really jumpstart us in being able to provide some of the workforce development needs that the community has. So I just wanted to let you know that that's the other side of the coin, is that if we get both of them, then it's really going to be great, right? So just wanted to let you know where that was going.
That sounds really good.
Just one question
Good,
for
Tom.
Jody. Jody, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you step up and take part of a solar grant application?
Yes, we did the Solve It grant, and that's, we piggybacked on a SKC event that they held, that second annual climate change event, and we hosted a workshop and a panel discussion. And we did the survey that was trying to get to the understanding the needs of our tribal members living on the reservation for their energy needs. And we did get the draft report back. I think there are 451 responses. And so that was pretty good. We mailed out 3,998 flyers, but only tribal members on the reservation that were responsible for their power bill were supposed to respond. And we're going to be hosting one more event at Two Eagle River School. So this one was regional climate change, and so there were other people present. This one is only going to be for our local tribal members to learn more. And so far, it seems like everybody's like, yes, we want to know more about solar panels. And that's why we put a solar assistance project into Mike's realm. So yeah, it would, and we're figuring out, because if we get it, it will be a lot of work, but we try to get manpower to help with that, because right now, we're all doing 50 other jobs. But round 2 of the Solve It is, I think that's coming up. We can apply maybe even yesterday, but I haven't even seen the application. A separate outside consultant was supposed to be drafting that. And that would be for pilot. And I wanted to focus on conservation, because if you don't even use the energy, it doesn't even need to be generated. So about education to do home energy audits for yourself, and teaching people how to be more conservative with electricity. And then there will be a phase 3, maybe next year or something.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jody or Mike or Tony or Kelly?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jody and Mike and folks for working on this, and appreciate the explanation why it Mike, why it kind of got in late and all that, but I appreciate you all going after it and taking advantage of the relationships that you have, Jody, particularly to go after this. And we need to. Sometimes you have to think outside the box to get some things done. And we've been talking about trying to do solar for a while. I visited with Clyde Abrahamson at Spokane Indian Housing Authority, and I think they have about 150 homes and businesses that they've put solar on. One of the things that you mentioned, Jody, is one of the things that they learned is that some folks are saving about 30% in their energy costs, but there are also some of those that need a little bit of an education in terms of conserving, because they figure, well, I got solar, I can just run everything full time all the time, and they're not realizing that savings. So, but I appreciate you all working on this. And definitely, Mike, it looks like you'll be having to potentially hire some folks to help you with the shop there.
Thanks, James. Anything else? You bet, Mike. Go ahead.
December 2nd, you're all invited to breakfast at Nine Pipe. I'm getting the resource managers together to talk about developing BMPs for the tribal organization around climate. So the resolution that you guys passed, I'm still working to develop best management practices for everybody within the organization. So I did mail out a list of things that we came up with so far, and I'll make sure I email it to all of you to look at. So if you have any more ideas, I'd appreciate that. So 8 o'clock, Monday morning, December 2nd at Nine Pipe. Thanks.
One last comment from Mike, say it'll never happen again. That's what I thought with Trump's first term, but be careful when you say that.
Thank you all. Hey, Jody. Mike. See you Monday. Hey. Really? Good to see you, Tony. Morning, Dan. Maylin. Who else? John's here. And Zach. Zach. Yeah. Anybody online we need?
Should be Katie at least, I hope. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of council. So our first item is an open session, and I'll have Maylin present.
Good morning, everyone. I am requesting that the organizational chart for the prosecutor's office be slightly modified based on the increase in the caseload in regards to the criminal matters. I've determined that we really need to have 2 legal assistants, law office administrator's assistants. It's not adding anybody else, it's just reconfiguring one of the existing positions to fill that need so that we have adequate coverage in handling the criminal matters because of the increase.
I think we emailed this to Jennifer yesterday, but I don't know if council got a copy of the org chart.
Good, Carol.
Has it came? Can you tell me?
Yeah, so with felonies, we've had about 1,000, 1,000 feels like that, 100 more cases per year. And it's just that one person can't handle the volume of the criminal. So I need to have one person that could do civil and criminal and one person that's solely dedicated to the criminal.
Yeah, I agree that you definitely need to have additional workers.
Yeah.
But there has been a disagreement between, I guess, in the drug court on that we're taking on the county's responsibility. Is that still position? I mean, we're doing the county's work.
So yeah, this has really nothing to do with the kind of cases we're getting in. That's sort of a separate issue. I certainly think that the issue of what cases we take in the drug court goes to the capacity. Obviously, we'd like to take as many as possible, but when we're talking about capacity, it's looking at who we can divert from our system in the court into the healing court, as opposed to taking the county's people and diverting them from their system.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. And my only comment is that there still are people. So,
And I don't dispute that at all. It's just a capacity issue.
thank you.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maylin, how many tribal members do you have on your staff?
So all of the support staff are tribal members. None of the attorneys are. We have one of the advocates that's working with us part-time. She's still going to law school. That's a descendant. And one of my advocates is a tribal member. And then I have another advocate that's a descendant that's going to law school that's still working for us part-time.
CSKT tribal member?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Both
you.
of them are, yeah. Always looking for tribal member attorneys. Unfortunately, the legal tends to take them, so I don't usually get them.
Other questions for Maylin? Entertain a motion to approve the organizational motion by Carol, second by Tom. All in favor? All in favor? Unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Maylin.
Sam.
Well, thanks, Maylin. So we do have a couple more action items, but we may need executive session to discuss them before coming out in the open
We
to
will
approve those
go out of regular.
and renaming resolution.
We have a resolution to rename Dixon as Shalif.
Motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Tom. Second by Jimmy. All in favor?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
We are unanimous with Len out of the room. And the second is a resolution.
Yeah, I'll let John introduce it.
Yeah, it's a resolution establishing human health requirements and risk exposure scenario processes for the CSKT.
Motion by Tom. Second by Danielle. All in favor?
Yes.
We're unanimous.
Right. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman, council members, and John and Zach will be here for the FWP presentation as well.
Will that be an executive?
Maybe, yeah. Why don't,
Be an executive and let them come in.
yeah, let's do that, because I don't know what's going to come up and I don't know what you want on the record.
Don't know
as
what
you
Tom's gonna
discuss.
say.
We will go out of regular back into executive. And we will take a break and invite Fish and Wildlife in. Welcome. I hope you enjoyed some dessert. I think we're ready. And hopefully we'll gather in. Len was on a phone call, I think, so. You have a microphone in front of you, push a button right where it says talk, and then it'll turn it on, and yeah.
Okay, now you can hear me? Okay, and then can you see what I have on the screen? Okay. So, do you want to introduce yourself first?
We can't see on the screen yet.
Oh. What is it? Yeah, I do. Okay. That one. From current or from beginning. Yeah.
Thing is on yours.
Now you guys can see it? Thank you. Well, good afternoon. Dave and I are going to share the time together on the agenda, and I'll go through first, and then Dave can introduce himself and go through his presentation if that's okay. Okay, so I know in Indian country we like to do introductions so that it's not just about what we do but kind of who we are. And so on your slide, the lady you see there is my great grandmother Julia Waits in the Water. She's recognized as being the first Indian policewoman in the country, and my great grandfather Chief Waits in the Water was one of our last traditional war chiefs. I'm Scapi Picani. I was born and raised on the Blackfeet Reservation. And my grandpa Bill Spanish served on the council for many years and was chairman for several terms as well. And I have 4 older brothers, and one of them is somebody that many of you know, Buzz Cobell. And he's the current director of Fish and Wildlife for our tribe. And even though he used to torture me as a child, I'm very proud of him and and like him very much. Okay. How do I do that? Next. Sorry, I'm challenged. Okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Cookie, before we go any farther, I just want to thank you on behalf of the council, the Conservancy, for hosting us, earlier a few weeks ago, and the tour and the meal, and it was, great conversation, a great opportunity, and really appreciate it. It was good. Wish the highway would have been still open all the way, but we can't control the weather, but next time we'll do
Yes,
it.
next time we'll try to go earlier in the year.
But Lemleps, thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you, Cookie. Meeting you was the highlight of that trip for me, and what a blessing it is to know you. And it was a lovely day. It was good weather. It wasn't too cold. It wasn't hot. It wasn't any snow. So it was just a beautiful way to spend the day in a beautiful place. And sometimes we need that. We need to be in nature that restores our soul. So thank you for organizing that. And I'm so glad that I got to meet you and get to know you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Jermaine was a big help in all that too, Jermaine White. And I'll talk a little bit more about her in a minute. So this is tells you a little bit about what I do. So I serve on the board of the Glacier National Park Conservancy, and I'm chair of the Tribal Relations Committee. And the Conservancy is the philanthropic partner for Glacier National Park. And we fund grants for park projects, and that they wouldn't be able to do without this kind of funding. So I gave a handout. You have like a little magazine type handout, and that gives you an idea of some of the accomplishments that are done with that funding. And it might also give you some ideas about partnerships that maybe you want to engage in for the tribe. Our executive director is Doug Mitchell, and he and his staff work for the board of directors. And
And we fundraise in a couple of ways. We reach out to donors and participate in sponsor donor events. And then we have several sales outlets. So if you've been in the park, you'll know that there's one at Belton Depot, right as you go, before you go under the underpass into West Glacier there. There's Belton Depot, the railroad station. We have a sales outlet there. We have one at Apgar Visitor Center. We have one at the top of Logan Pass. We have one at St. Mary's, and then we have an online store. And 100% of the profits from those stores go into projects that we fund with the park. And so, and sometimes the park, what they do is they put in for a grant with us, and then we work with Dave and his staff to figure out which ones, you know, should be funded. And we've been really blessed the last couple of years. There hasn't had to be a lot of debate. We've had enough funding to be able to fund pretty much everything that has been forwarded. So, so Jermaine White from your tribe worked with me on the board. She left the board after her 3-year term. And so I've remained on the board. I'm the chair of that committee. And then Rose Bear Don't Walk, who is a Salish member. Rose is now on the committee with me. And she's currently a second-year PhD student at MSU online. Great school, MSU. I don't know if you watched the game. Anybody? Poor Grizzlies. Okay. Anyway.
That came up earlier today.
That's right. So Rose is an ethnobotanist, and I believe that members of your culture committee are serving as her advisors. And I'm really excited to have her working with me on the board, and she'll be a good advocate for you folks as well. And even though I'm Blackfeet, I advocate for you too. Okay. So this is my welcome home slide. The time that we spent together in the park and over dinner this past month was a time of remembering and sharing and connecting. And now with our park partner and park superintendent, Dave, we hope to build on our relationship to engage in some opportunities which will benefit the tribes and enhance your relationship with Glacier. So we've learned some of the opportunities that you shared, and we're open to more. We'd like to offer some up to get us started as well. And these are based on conversations we had when the board toured the reservation back when Tom was chair in 2023. We went to Salish Kootenai College, we went through the dam, we went through the bison range. And as you guys so eloquently put it in your letter to the Conservancy Board earlier this month, ultimately, I think our mutual goal is to work together to protect this beautiful landscape and that is Glacier. And we hope that we can reconnect and look forward to the future of the park and enhancing CSKT's relationship to it and involvement in its stewardship. Okay, so I mentioned that we have sales outlets, and this is something new that we started this year. Our sales staff made a concerted effort, and Rose and I and Jermaine provided names of craftspeople, and they connected with them to sell everything from jewelry to T-shirts to Christmas ornaments, and we hope to do more in the coming years. So you'll see this year. I think this was as of September. We sold $68,000, almost $69,000 worth of merchandise that's all handcrafted, tribally made stuff. And then we also do a book club that's like a blog, I think is what it's called, where they go online and this year one of the books was Perma-Read by one of your tribal members, Deborah Magpie Erling. And I had read that book years ago and I reread it and it didn't disappoint. It was a wonderful book. So anyway, so we try to focus things that way as well. So in our conversations, some of the things that came up are listed here. The first one obviously is something that we're very interested in doing. We want to continue to have this annual board council meeting to enhance our relationship. We want our relationship to be one that's ongoing and very much nurture that relationship. And so we hope that we can have you come again to join us, and we would love to be able to come back over and join you. One of the things that we talked about was returning the youth and elders to the park and having maybe having field trips, school field trips or whatever. And so there is a grant that's available. If you guys are interested, our grants person told me that I should tell you to let's work on getting a grant application in right away. And the grant is for a school bus. We pay for the bus. It's like a $300 grant that funds the driver and the bus to come up to Glacier. And then I'd be happy to work with you. There's a couple churches in Columbia Falls that I can work with that could put up students, and they could, we could have sleeping bags or whatever, and they could sleep on the floor there. There's a kitchen. So, I mean, we could make it a fun outing. And so anyway, if you're interested in that, just let me know and I will work with you and we'll get that in. And you may want to do it for several of your communities. But it's totally up to you. Or you may say, hey, let's do it with SKC, do it with the older kids, or you may want to do all of it. It's totally up to you. We also want to increase hiring opportunities. And so USA Jobs is how the park has to primarily employ people, is through that application. It can be really hard to fill out sometimes. It's kind of daunting for a young kid to go in there and try and fill out everything that has to be in there. And so we would be happy to send one of our staff over from the Conservancy to put on several sessions and do USA Jobs training, and they can help them enter and input a resume and get all of that together. We would love to partner with SKC and the high schools and technical schools and to recruit and engage students to be hired by the Conservancy and or the park. We would love to partner with SKC and the Tribe's Higher Education Department to collaborate on research projects. So one of the things that we are doing in the Conservancy is taking a look at all of the research that goes on. So the park will get people coming that maybe they're grad students or whatever, and they're doing a research project on elk. And they may come from the University of Washington, or they may come from the University of Montana, and they may say, hey, we've got this project that we're going to do for our graduate thesis, and this is what we would like to do. And so what we're trying to do is gather all of that information, which universities are doing which studies, what's the park researching, and then try to partner so that we have better idea of what's been published, what's out there for data, how we might share data back and forth between all of us, because we all manage wildlife and fish and all of that. And so if there's ways that we can collaborate to do that better, to share information better, to help like a student that's going to Montana State that's studying something that has value for the park as well, then we would love to be able to collaborate on that and figure out a way to do that. So we just offer that as an opportunity. If that's something you're interested in, I'd really be happy to follow up with any or all of you to do that. And then you guys have the beautiful, I mean, I was just so amazed. Jermaine took me for a tour of your forestry greenhouses, your fire greenhouses and nurseries that you have here on the reservation. And they're just fabulous. I mean, I can't believe the amount of plants and plant material that you grow. And you have seed cleaning facilities, all of that. And so I think it'd be really wonderful if Dave and his staff could come over, if we could come over and take a tour and see what other opportunities there might be for us to either buy plant material or have material cleaned or whatever. So those are just opportunities I throw out there. And so maybe we could have a staff day or something like that. And then I know one of the things you mentioned in your letter that we also had talked about when we visited in 2023, and we had actually allocated some grant money for it, is to return the language and traditional place names to the park. Now, this isn't the you know, you have to have a congressional approval to actually change a name, but to show our name for things versus what they're called right now. And so it's, you know, putting up a sign that maybe right now says, you know, Pitamakan Falls, and then it tells what the translation is or what our name is for it, and then our language and that sort of thing. And so that's what it would be, is trying to restore our presence back into the park by having our language reflected there. So if you're would like to follow through on this and have interest in that, we can just see if the approach we had talked about before and the money we had allocated before is enough. And if not, we can do more. You know, I think there had been thought about working with the Elder Council and paying some sort of honorarium or something to them have input and help us put that together. But you can totally do it however you see fit. And I think that's the case with all of these. We would just, or any others you'd like to bring up, we would just love to learn what opportunities you want to pursue, agree on those, come up with a plan and a projected timeline, and we can go from there on working with the park to put in a grant for it if funding's needed, or as in the case of USA Jobs Training, just letting us know and we'll coordinate to have somebody help accomplish that. Okay. Okay, and there's our buddy Jermaine. So you're an invaluable partner, and we hope to be the same. Together, Jermaine and I have been advocating for your voice and involvement in creating and expanding opportunities in the park. And Rose and I will continue to serve in this function. And there's great support from the board and Dave as park superintendent to do that. And we'd love to hear your thoughts or any ideas you might have, whether you want to share those now or if you want me to follow up later. I'm happy to do that. And then you should have my business card. So please feel free to call me. I would love to visit with you and just help any way I can. And we want to be a good partner. And that's it.
Sounds awesome, Cookie.
Yeah.
Any questions for Cookie? Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know you had 5 outlet stores up there, but
Yeah.
if there was some artists here that would have items, how do we make that connection, or how's that program work? Is it a concession type thing, or you buy it outright from the artist, or what do you do?
Yeah, so what we've done is we've provided the names to our staff, the people who run the outlets, and then they've reached out directly to the tribal artists, and they'll visit with them about whatever it is that they have for sale, and then set a price point, and then we buy it from them, and then we sell it. Yeah. Yeah, and it's worked out wonderfully. And another thing that I really wanted to try and do this year, and if there was interest in doing it, I think it would be a really cool thing, and we could maybe set it up so you could sell it at the bison range and we could sell it in the park, is to do some sort of like neckerchief, you know, or a thing that, you know, how you throw them in your backpack, just like a cotton bandana type thing, and put the seasonal rounds on it or something like that. That would be like really a cool memento that people would want to take. And it would be something that could be created for both. So anyway, just think about that.
Thank you.
Let me off easy, okay?
Jennifer?
Well, I really like your idea of trying to get more people just out on the land because it's so restorative. And when we went on the bus tour and then had dinner, you know, and met the other board members, I thought that was really powerful because I felt like everyone there had a connection to that place and got something from it that was special. And that's what's drawn so many people to do this kind of work. And because the land it's sacred and it's healing and it's nourishing to be on it. And a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do that. They don't know how to access the land, just to be on it. And that's so sad that some people don't experience that kind of restorativeness that that place has to offer. So I really am grateful to you for thinking about that and thinking of a way to bring more people onto the land. And especially in a group setting too. And I think that makes it even more healing when you're with a group of people because you're bonding with each other, getting to know each other more, and that's healing too. And, and one thing I always think, if I go to a part of my ancestral territory, because even from my mom's tribe too, when I've been to the Great Lakes area, I think the land remembers me and I can feel that. Even if it's a place I've never been to before, but I know my ancestors were there, I can feel it. And it's very healing to do that, to go to those places and to be in those places. So, yeah, I just think that's a really great idea of connecting that with schools and finding ways to bring kids there. And when I was a teacher in Rocky Boy, I took kids too. Glacier's not that far from Rocky Boy, and most of my students had never been there before.
They're crazy.
So it's important to create those opportunities. Thank you.
Hey, Tom. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Cookie, when you're talking about the grant for the school bus, you're going to do the grant application or you're wanting support for that?
Well, I would love to do it with you. So what the grant requires is, it's an online application and you need to set a time frame. So it doesn't have to be like, let's say you just set it for now to get the grant, and we can change the time frame if we need to in coordination with the school. So let's say you want to do it while school's in session, then you may say, okay, toward the end of May, we're going to set up this time. And then I work with Dave to get somebody from the park who would be the guide, who would get on the bus and go with the kids to help them show them the park. And you can have elders, you can have whoever you want to have on that bus. And so, but it's a matter of just kind of getting the time frame laid out, and then I would work with the park to get them lined up with it, and then they would award it, because the grants are only available until the money runs out. And so people are applying now. So we could get on there and we could do it for Ronan, Pablo, whatever you want to do. SKC, like I said, so whoever you want me to work with, I will work with, and then we can get those applications.
So the grant would be to contract a bus service with the driver to then facilitate moving kids from point A up to the park and back.
And back again.
And during a duration of multiple visits during, September or May or whatever.
Or if you thought you could get the support to do it during the summer, we could do it during the summer too.
Would it be limited to just the to and from the park, or could you do stops in the national forest like Hungry Horse Reservoir or other locations?
Yeah, I think it's just through the park.
Would Highway 2 coming back around count? I guess it would count because you're driving through the park.
Yeah, that's right. Going around Marias Pass that way.
Okay, so you could do the whole loop.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you spent the night, you're talking about lining up a nonprofit in Columbia Falls or something for overnight.
Yeah, church or something.
Is it possible, Dave, that the campgrounds aren't under concession management, are they? They're under your management?
They're still under ours, yeah.
Is it possible to book a campground or part of it for a field trip?
Yeah, with enough planning, we can look at, we have a number of group sites at some of the campgrounds. I know APGAR's got a group site. There are group sites all the way around at 2Med as well. So yeah, that's something we can do.
I mean, that'd be fun. And we have a program called Native America Speaks, which is like a 42-year-old program. It's one of the oldest programs in the Park Service, and it's at Glacier. And it's having native speakers come and speak at campgrounds and all of that and just talk. They have everything from star stories. That's another thing. We have an observatory at St. Mary where you can watch stars. It's like awesome. It's so cool. And it's on this like a spinny round thing. I don't know what they call it, but it moves the telescope. It's like really cool. And so, you know, that's something we could do in the evening. So.
Carol? Anything else for Cookie?
So, do you want me to follow up with you on that?
Oh, I think definitely. I know that our Class Bay Sailors cultural elders are wanting to do field trips for sure, and we want to do our youth field trips. So definitely, I just want to make sure we would, you know, maximize the opportunity that if we be able, since it is a auto tour for a lot of the Glacier, with the Golden Sun Highway would be open. I think that would be important. So I don't want. I think September, or you know, maybe October, May, yeah, would be good. But in the summertime would be good too. It would be great to do it in the middle of
Well, and usually, I mean, going to the Sun Road, it's, you know, you can't bet on it being open even till mid-July. You know, you're just not sure if the road's gonna be clear. So yeah, if that's your goal, then it would, you'd want to do it in the summer, yeah, or early fall.
September.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, as far as campsites go, that makes it even easier because
September.
the margins of the season, usually we've converted to dry camping, primitive camping, but those group sites will certainly be available at St. Mary or Apgar that time of year.
Go ahead, Carol.
When I was younger, I remember going on a reservation camp out, and then we ended up in Glacier National Park with Joe McDonald. He was the lead on that, and we stayed up at we went to the top of the Sun Highway, and then we walked all the way across, and it was like 7 miles to this chalet. I can't remember the
Granite
name
Park
of-
Chalet.
Yeah, and I tell you, it was the most amazing trip. I never got so hungry in my whole life. I never thought I'd make it, but there were bears and everything on the trip, and it was amazing. And I know also that the Boys and Girls Club, they take kids up there now and take pictures, and they give them brand new cameras and just take them on all kinds of fun things going on. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that kind of stuff is happening, and kids really enjoy it, and adults.
Anything else? I think we're ready for you, Dave.
Okay. Thanks for having us here. I'm Dave Romer. I'm the superintendent at Glacier. I came back to Montana for the superintendent job in July of 22. And I think it's the greatest park in the whole system. I'm very fortunate to get to steward this place and work with the people that I do. And what I love about it is that it's large landscapes, it's wildlife, and I feel strongly that it's an opportunity to reestablish new models of park management that involves cooperation and stewardship with tribes, with the people that were here before the Park Service. A few slides to share. This is a kind of a combination reintroduction and general information, and then there are a few areas of focus that I was hoping to share with you today. I wanted to start just with a reminder of the international designations that Glacier has in many cases fought for standing to have. The Waterton Glacier Peace Park, the Biosphere Reserve, the World Heritage Site in '95 came after, I believe, more than a decade of efforts to join the World Heritage Convention, and most recently an International Dark Sky Park. And as I was thinking about this and putting this together, I wanted to be sure not to forget that the World Heritage Convention played a pretty big role in the protection of the North Fork of the Flathead River by drawing attention to the risk posed to mining in British Columbia and the Upper Basin, and that those efforts are still ones that the Confederated Settlers in Kootenai are involved with their work on the elk and the Kootenai watershed. So thank you for everything that you do to have an eye out for the larger landscape and the places that we live. Sticking with the international theme, I also wanted to highlight that up in Waterton in the summer of 23, Parks Canada and the National Park Service re-signed a memorandum of understanding. Behind the scenes, Canada had just signed one with Mexico, and I think the United States was feeling a little bit left out. And so it finally got us to the table, and we were able to sign that agreement. And like many agreements, it's just a piece of paper saying we agreed to agree. But there's a part in the end, in both English and French, that talks about these priority areas of collaboration. And it leans very heavily into Indigenous-led conservation, cultural heritage, working across the boundary, obviously, connecting people to nature. I always see a lot of things in these agreements that I find very useful because, as you know, administrations come and go. But having an agreement to kind of bridge the gap from one administration to the next and from maybe one superintendent to the next helps remind us where our values are. And so I thought this was a very nicely written document and one that I always use to kind of underpin any of the endeavors that the park takes in the area of international collaboration or in working with tribes. Just for a little bit of, it's kind of inside baseball, the park has identified these 5 areas that we need to grow in for our internal growth, as well as for how we are stewards of the park. These are all areas we need to do better in, taking care of our employees, providing a world-class visitor experience, co-stewardship with tribes, making that an authentic and real experience in the park. Climate change mitigation and adaptation through sustainability projects, and building the park of the future. That's always a tough one to explain. It's a little bit of an organizational efficiency, sustainability goal, just to make sure that we're not burning ourselves out and that we're growing for where we need to be 5 years from now, not what we needed to do 5 years ago. And I wanted to highlight 2 of those goals. The first part of it is visitor experience. And I really wanted to have this time with you today because next week, I believe on Tuesday night, the park will be at the casino in Polson, asking the public what they think about vehicle reservations, shuttles, other ways of visiting the park. And we had our first meeting. It was totally virtual last week. We had about 50 people on asking a lot of questions. We're trying to get out of the year-to-year pilot vehicle reservations mode and into a more long-term footing. The reason why we feel we need to do this is that there are a lot more people visiting the park now than there used to be, particularly in the last few decades, particularly in the last 6 or 7 years, where we exceed that 2.5 million mark every year. And we exceeded 3 million again this year. And most of those park visitors are driving on infrastructure that was built in 1933 when only 150,000 people visited. And they drove small cars then. We drive way, way, way bigger cars nowadays. So it's a very different experience. And I don't think I'm alone in seeing all that and trying to search for where the real authentic park is underneath all this hubbub. it's still magical that people are able to experience the wonder of visiting the park, even on a crowded, busy day. But if we just let it happen to us, then the numbers in the chart will continue to go up. And if we haven't already reached it, we'll reach a point where it's just not sustainable.
With the amount of traffic growing into the park, which is a great thing, I guess, financially, right? Revenues are growing, but is it having any negative environmental impacts, having that much traffic go through such a beautiful, delicate place?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify all of them. We do sound level monitoring, and we know that the noise on that road is creating, if you will, a corridor of unnaturalness through the park. Some animals are drawn to human vehicles and the fluids from human vehicles and the fluids from humans and all of the human use at popular areas. Mountain goats, for one, and other animals shy away from it. Some of the things that we've been trying to pilot with vehicle reservations, perhaps has inadvertently moved visitation and traffic on the road into the early morning hours of the day, away from the midday part, and there's more wildlife on the roads then. So yeah, almost any metric you can think of for the park, be it native flora, the movements of animals, air and water pollution, noise, light pollution, or even a loss of spiritual value and sense of solitude. All those are values that are obviously diminished when you've got 3 million people visiting, almost 1 million per month during the key months of the year.
If I could just interject too. One of the things that I think happened too is during COVID, people were pushed outdoors. And a lot of people who maybe weren't outdoors before, never went hiking, didn't have anybody to teach them a land ethic relative to that, are out there now. And so, you know, there's feces along the trail. There's, you know, people just they don't pack water and they go in. So there's just all kinds of impacts from that kind of behavior too. And it's hard to get people, you know, we learned as kids how to behave, but it's harder to get people who are adults to, you know, to understand a lot of this. And so even though there's nice materials telling you, please don't do this, don't pick wildflowers, don't do all this, people aren't paying attention sometimes.
Yeah. Loose dogs, drones, all kinds of things going on in the park that shouldn't be. And anyway, this is why we're going out again to the public and seeking ideas. There's not a plan right now that we're looking for reaction to. It's not like we've baked a cake and we're like, try this and tell us if you like it. It's more like we're considering baking a cake and we're looking at cookbooks. So look with us, maybe shop for ingredients with us, and we'll see where we get. And I've got a few slides to show where we're going to get. The planning that we will begin after this period of civic engagement and public input, we'll be looking at traffic congestion, visitor movement challenges. We've always had to close roads and valleys when things have become too congested, although we've tried to do that less through better planning. Looking at our own staff and facility capacity for visitors, there is some real limit as to just how many people can go to the bathroom at Logan, for example. So we're not in an unlimited growth scenario as far as visitation goes. Visitor use impacts on natural and cultural resources, of course, is our core mission. And wanting to protect the visitor experience. Some people will come from a crowded area, and if the word Disneyland or Disney World comes to their mind, that's not a good thing. We shouldn't be in that space. That's that, and Glacier's different. So we want to be able to, as best we can, protect the experience for people that want to experience solitude, recreation, a sense of the wild, a sense of relearning and restoration. Here are our little footprints kind of taking us from the beginning. The beginning is kind of an arbitrary point, but in 2021, we started piloting vehicle reservations as a way to meter and flatten out visitation curves so that there were not too many people arriving in the same place at the same time. We've been doing that for a number of years now. We just announced our plan for 25, which is a lot like 24, where it's worked out pretty well. And now we're saying, all right, we're tired of going year to year. So is everyone else. We want to write a plan that will kind of establish the framework that is how we're going to manage in the future. And we hope to finish this plan in early winter 2026, which means that we will pilot our summer operations for 25. We'll probably announce a pilot for how we'll do our operations in summer of 26. But if we get the plan done, then the plan will sort of supersede that. So we'll do what I want to do, which is get out of piloting new stuff each year and get into the rest of the park operations. We want to manage holistically, meaning that the things that we do, the strategies like transportation, vehicle reservations, and communications are all of one piece and fit together. We obviously want to protect the resources of the park and promote high quality visitor experiences. And we want to protect the unique character of Glacier and the unique character of the unique parts of Glacier. The North Fork is not Logan Pass. Logan Pass is not Two Medicine. Many Glacier is not Goat Lick. They all have their own unique character, and we want to be able to present different values in different areas of the park. So at these public meetings, we're really looking for people to tell us what their experience has been of reservations, of park shuttles, and how those could be better, or should they be at all. More effective ways to get information out to visitors so that they're not surprised by anything that's going on, and then trying to figure out parking. I'll share one of the things I hear so much from people is that we do all the vehicle reservations and you can get online at 7 p.m. the day before you want to go, and it's pretty easy to get a ticket now, but that still doesn't guarantee you parking at Logan Pass. And no, it certainly doesn't. If we were managing to solve Logan Pass, it would probably look different and be a different tool. You know, it would be parking meters and time limited parking up there and ways of managing that lot. We're just managing at the gate, and everything that happens inside the park today is still up to everyone that arrives, where they want to go and where they want to park and for how long they want to park. So this is different for tribes. You, of course, may tell us your thoughts at any point. For the general public, we're advertising this as an opportunity through January 6th to tell us what they think and what would make a better park future. And to think of it piece by piece in the park. Is there a solution that works for the North Fork that wouldn't be appropriate at Many Glacier, perhaps? So we'll be at these public meetings to try and present some maps and information and try to tease out some of those questions and then hear from people. So I always look forward to them. Every meeting I go to about the park is filled with people that love Glacier and want to talk about Glacier. So I love those conversations. And even when people are mean to me in the press about the things we do and don't like it, I still know that there's an overriding pride and love for Glacier that is driving that. I'll be at all these personally, except for the one in Browning. I need to be away. So park staff will be at all of these. and inviting public comment. If the council would like me to come back and give a more in-depth presentation on this plan at any time, I would love to do it. I could bring some of our specialists around. We could kind of dig into the data and share what we've been seeing and what we're hearing from other people. I want to make ourselves available completely to you to be able to gather your ideas and your input. I know some of you have already been involved in this issue for a long time. The other of the 5 goals I want to at least just touch on is co-stewardship with tribal nations. This is my happy place as a professional park ranger, to get to work in an area where ecological restoration, cultural revitalization, and justice come together is a sweet spot that I can't even describe. It's the highest of what my job as a park superintendent should be. With the administration change, we might find that the names for things that we do change. So I don't know how long I'll have a slide that calls this co-stewardship, but everything that we do, everything that I've been doing since I've gotten here to Glacier, none of it is Biden administration specific. It will live through. It's underpinned by deeper values than secretarial orders and things of that nature. So I always want to find ways to listen to tribes, to invite your voice into the decision-making space of park leadership so that we can be moving in the right direction and be welcoming and make the park more authentic. And I didn't bring the whole gang with me today, but I thought it might be helpful just to show you a little bit of our organization. Pete Webster is my deputy superintendent. He supervises, I should have made this a different color for Tegan Tomlin. She's our executive assistant. She's the heartbeat of the park. Pete also supervises our safety program. And down at the bottom, he supervises kind of our 4 operational divisions. The chief ranger, which right now is filled by Micah in an acting role. Jim Foster, facilities, roads, buildings. Elizabeth Mackey is interpretation and education. And you and your staff may work with some of Elizabeth's colleagues. Matt Daniels is our education program coordinator. And Lindsay does a lot of work in the schools on the west side of the park. And Phil Wilson's our science and resource management program director. He supervises Sarah Mandelko, who visits often with the cultural committees. And he also works with Don LaFleur, who does a lot of our White Park Pine and other climate change projects. And then back in the middle to the left, Emily Keel, our administrative officer, Jenna Eisnagel is our public affairs officer, Steve Bird, commercial services. And I'll point out especially that Emily Keel, I think, has been to SKC on job fair days, is always looking for ways to strengthen those connections. Emily and Pete are also key people in our partnership with Cookie and the Conservancy. Again, thanks for your time. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a reintroduction and overview and lean a little bit into our visitor use management stuff, especially since we'll be here later in Polson. I wanted to make sure you had a good understanding of those things and don't get caught off guard by any constituent questions to you about what is that crazy park doing now. So thank you.
Questions for Dave? Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and hey, David, thank you for coming. And it's got to be tough to have someone like Cookie being there to help you out. I mean, you can only be so lucky. I am totally interested in the continuation of this consultation and how you develop things and what's going on, because Glacier Park is the headwaters of our water, and it's the lead thing for tourism. and economic driver. And so it has so much in a lot of things that we do, from our bison range, scenic tour drive, to the going to the Sun Highway, scenic tour drive. But what you do affects us.
Yep.
No doubt about it. So yeah, we really want to keep up with what's going on, and at least I do, and what's going, what the plans might be, because it's in all of our best interests. And I heard that you have electric charging station now for vehicles, so I congratulate you on that. Maybe I'll take my electric car up there now. It seems like something that's kind of missing since the glaciers are disappearing and we're warming the climate. It seems like we should be promoting, alternative vehicles, electric vehicles, as much as possible. Pedestrian use and bicycles and those good things. So I really do appreciate that. Again, I'll advocate for my position from the going to the Sun Highway FACA committee, that this route should be a one-way road and start in a clockwise fashion from West Glacier and go up and over to Browning, back down on Highway 200, and then utilize the extra lane for parking and stopping, and just maximize the visitor experience that way. And you wouldn't need to put any other controls on it. It would basically self-regulate itself, and the visitor experience would go up tenfold. You're not facing two-way traffic. It's just one way, and you can park anywhere. And it's just a matter of putting in more SST toilets and more signage, et cetera, et cetera. And I would advocate for an alternative would be bicycle up on the west side, and then have a shuttle vehicle come up, electric vehicle come up with a trailer, pick them all up and take them back down that way to St. Mary's. And that way you would really pick up the visitation as far as the capacity of individuals. So I think that's possible with the development of electric bicycles, and the scale of that is incredible. And nothing to take an electric bicycle and not even have to pedal, but drive all the way up from the bottom there, from McDonald Lake Lodge, all the way to the top on one charge. So it's amazing what the technology has provided us. And so, you think about the number of people could do that, and then you put them all on I always think of the route of the Hiawatha. So that's what they do there, right? You basically pedal one way, and then the other way is with the shuttle bus and a trailer hauling all the bikes. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is a great visitor experience. So that's another way to think about, way you might do something differently. But I think the economic gain of that park visitation and tourism needs to be shared equally from each side of the Continental Divide. And so I think, you're over hedged on the west side and less visitation on the east side, and there should be an equalization of that, and equal opportunity for economic development for our Browning folks. So that's what I'd advocate for that. But thank you.
Anything else? Bicycles until got that one guy goes over the edge.
Hey, they go over the edge with the cars too.
They do.
They just fall off the wall.
They've done that.
I mean, people are crazy. You can't fix stupid sometimes. You just can't. It's Darwin. Just adaptation. You lose some of them.
Yeah. Tom, I wanted to thanks for that feedback, and I forgot to mention we've been working with Whisper on as we advertise the ways to visit the park. We specifically include messages about respectful recreation on tribal reservations, and so I think we've incorporated some messages straight that we've coordinated through Whisper to make sure that that visitors aren't turned away at our gates because they had no idea what was going on, and then just go and try to pretend it's BLM land on the reservation.
Yeah, thank you for that collaboration. And so when Cookie first brought up the language and signage, place names, that is so important for us to remind people we're still here. We're going to be here forever. And to say that, the Salish people and the Kootenai people are here, the Blackfeet people are here, and have that representative at anywhere you stop in the park would be utterly fantastic, because that demonstrates that we're preserving our language. Our place names are so important, and that history of the site. And it reminds all these visitors, the 3 million visitors, that there are tribes here. And this was their landscape that they've been treading upon for, the past 30,000 years. And so that anytime you do any signage, I would just appreciate thinking of that opportunity to insert our place names and language and any messaging you do. And I thank you for that, for trying to educate the public. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave and Cookie.
Thanks for having us
Mm-hmm.
and giving, sharing your hook.
Oh, yeah, good stuff.
Well, great. It was wonderful. And I will give a call. Do you want me to just call your office or? Yeah. Call and find out.
We'll find some folks to coordinate with
We'll
you.
get signed up.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds really good. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
And you didn't even tell.
Cookie, it's not that bad. I've been at the times where I've been 2 days off, not 1 day off. I show up 2 days early. And wow, I mean, this is not, wow. Thank you. Lunch.
Good afternoon, Greg. We're supposed to have lands in, Jennifer fit Greg in between supposedly and ran long, so I don't know how long a presentation Greg has for us, but 2.5 hours. There you go. And then, yeah, we're supposed to have a lands committee meeting.
Well, you were just talking about being a day early or 2 days early for a meeting. So I'm happy to be here almost 4 years too late. So, well, I shouldn't say too late, but 4 years late. I'm here because other than Mike, perhaps, none of you have heard of Indian Commerce Campsite. That is a nonprofit corporation that I founded under tribal law to work on a different approach to economic development for our tribal people. And it has occurred to me that as we were getting ready to launch an initiative with you, or actually for you, in agricultural development, that I'd never been here and talked to you about the nonprofit corporation and what we've been doing for almost 4 years now. So I just wanted to very quickly lay that groundwork and invite each of you to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you want to know more about what we've been doing for almost 4 years now. But very quickly, the reason that the nonprofit was started, the reason I started it, was my view of economic development was one that had been shaped by all of my years of working with the tribes from a top-down perspective, right? So tribal council takes action, does something, and then it kind of works on down from there. There's nothing wrong with that. We've got some successes to show for that, some amazing successes, and that's great. But for tribal people, and a lot of the interests and a lot of the expressions that I have heard in the several years since I was working for tribal government, it occurred to me that there needed to be some approach, some opportunity for tribal people to be working on economic development from the bottom up, from their interests, their privately held businesses, their initiative. There needed to be some way of being able to work with that and support that directly. So that is what Indian Commerce Campsite is all about. You know, years and years ago, we used to gather at different points around the Pacific Northwest at different times of year. And we would engage in commerce with other tribal people. And those campsites almost became those rendezvous points, and everybody knew different times of year, different types of places where those types of things could engage. So that's where I came up with the idea for the name, is to kind of get back to the basics. That being said, as a nonprofit, we survive strictly on donor support. Since we started, we have received a little over $1 million in donor support for a number of projects. One of those projects was involving helping entrepreneurs and helping you as tribal government in the relationship with entrepreneurs to have kind of an Amazon of tribally owned businesses. One-stop shopping, one website you could go and you could search for and see every tribal member-owned business that wanted to be seen. So we developed that website, and it's a full functioning website. Just virtually anything you can do in Amazon.com, you could do on this website. One of the things that we all relied on in order to get here were our vehicles. And so one of the things I wanted to focus on was, you know, we have a few tribal people that are involved in auto mechanics, but for the most part, we rely on a non-tribal economy to help us keep our vehicles going. And there's a lot of tribal people that are interested in that. And so I started with Salish Kootenai College, an auto mechanics, ASE certified auto mechanics course, and tried to create a career path, if you will, or an opportunity for tribal members being interested in auto mechanics. Since that time, the college has the two people that I was working with and doing that, neither one of which are there at the college. Where things were left off is they wanted to build a vocational trade center, and that auto mechanics was going to be a part of that. My purpose in starting it with them, and really for them, was to get the ball rolling and to show how it could be done, and to make it easier for them to step into that as a regular course offering for the college. It's kind of fallen by the wayside. I don't know if they're still planning on doing a vocational trade center, but if they do, the groundwork has already been laid for an auto mechanics course. The other thing that we all rely on is food. Okay, so here we are, 1.2 million acres. Water rights kind of, for the most part, settled. A huge irrigation project worth millions and millions of dollars to get water out there and that. And for the most part, we don't raise our own food. We just don't. And so from a food security standpoint, from an economic development standpoint, from achieving one of the goals that I've had for ICC, is for us to be producing those things that we consume in very simple terms. That involves food as well, right? So we decided that in order to move forward in that area, one of the things that we were up against is kind of a rough history in terms of agriculture in the tribes. Hasn't been that friendly, right? Not a whole lot of interface there, and that goes right up until the 1980s. Our arch nemesis, if you will, at that time were the irrigators, right? I mean, it was, a non-Indian organization, fought everything that the tribes did. So getting involved in agriculture is just cutting right against the grain. It's been kind of tough. So we decided, all right, so we need to start with some attitudes first, rather than just jump into the economics. And so we decided to create an opportunity for tribal and non-tribal people to come together, and I call them community gardens, but I've been told repeatedly not to refer to them that way. But and to date, we've put together 8 different community gardens. That involves tribal and non-tribal people. I'm sensitive to the criticism that I have heard out on the street about that effort coming from tribal people. And that is, there's an awful lot of non-tribal people that are involved in those things, and it's kind of an uncomfortable place to go to sometimes. Well, with those 8 gardens, I did some poking around and found out that we have 64 tribal people that are participating in those gardens, and a few more that are kind of come and go. But those gardens in just this last year produced over 20,000 pounds of produce, and have helped demonstrate that this is something that we can do. Arguably, this is something that we should do. And from the success and the response to those gardens, we are ready to take our next step in agricultural development, and that is commercial agriculture. Now, when I say commercial agriculture, please do not think Monsanto, because that is just the opposite of what it is that we want to do. What we are practicing and what we are trying to help get started is regenerative agriculture. It's organic. It is something that is sustainable, something that doesn't pollute the waterways, something that doesn't pollute us when we eat the produce from those fields. Something that is, sustainable really says it all. But the idea behind that, about moving to commercial agriculture, is to begin doing on a larger scale what we were doing at a community level, a community garden. And at the same time, create pathways for any tribal people that want to get involved in produce production. It's not difficult. It's not costly. The land is here. I would assume that the tribal council would be very supportive of a tribal member that wants to lease a little bit of land, and with the support of an established program, get involved in the commercial production. And that's creating that opportunity is what we are ready to do, to take those next steps. So that's going to involve you. And we've been working hand in glove for a couple of years now with your program, the Food Sovereignty Program, to help and to make sure that we weren't going to be doing anything that was going to be in conflict with or duplicate or whatever. We wanted to complement what was already in place there. And so since the program is primarily a distribution program and was purchasing a lot of its produce that it was distributing from non-tribal producers, right? need for us to begin producing ourselves, became apparent. So in the weeks to come, we're going to be sitting here with food sovereignty, and we're going to be looking at Bison Springs as a demonstration farm, and taking that next step so that tribal people that are interested can get involved in agriculture production. So those are the basic things that we've been working on, and doing it from the bottom up. I've tried to make a point of being invisible in that process, which is why I've never come here and talked to you about that. Grassroots means that it's about the people. It's not about one person or any one or two people. So trying to create this groundswell of support for approaching our economy is something that I've been trying to do quietly and visibly for the last 4 years. So it dawned on me, since we need to start talking about commercial agriculture, that I needed to come here and talk to you about what it is that I've been doing. So if any of you have any questions about what we're all about, if you want to know more about the why I'm doing what it is that I'm doing, that's a discussion that is perhaps 20 years overdue. I would love to have that discussion with you, but it's you need to ask me for that. If you don't ask, I don't feel comfortable telling. So if you ask, I'll tell. That being said, are there any questions about what it is that we're trying to do in commercial agriculture and our interest in Bison Springs, our working relationship with the Food Sovereignty Program, or our other economic development initiatives? Like I said, I'm about 4 years late getting here, so.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Greg. This is, it's great to see how we're gonna have something that members of our tribe could get into agriculture. You know, it's like some of these entities, these older, like stock associations, it's hard to break into them. It's hard to get into the business. And when you talk about actual farming, oh my goodness, that's really hard to become knowledgeable about it or how you do it. And like big, large production farms, you know, it's like cash crops, potatoes or something like that. And so it's great to see this, especially since we're acquiring more land all the time. We're rebuilding the irrigation project. It's great timing for this. And that value added, you know, raise it yourself. Let's still be shipping food across the country. Let's face this ourselves and grow our own food and add to the, you know, what we do on the natural landscape to gather our food and medicine. So it's really good. My question is, how does a person get into that with you in this, like say this Buffalo Springs farm? And were you planning on doing anything with our processing plant that we're going to be putting in when you talk about meat products or something of that value?
Let me start with the last part in terms of meat processing. So from an economic development standpoint, the overall issue of food production and being involved in that economy, anything we can do to help support that initiative would be great. It's one that we have not focused on simply because it is something that you have been focusing on, and a number of people here have been focusing on that. There are other areas that have not been focused on and nothing was happening at all, and those are the areas that we chose to step into. But across the spectrum, anything we can do to help any form of economic development here is what we're all about. Okay, so to the degree that we can help with some of the USDA issues around meat processing, or to the degree that we can help in terms of the producing the just the whole process of growing the animal up into the point of processing it. That involves agriculture as well, and it goes beyond hay. You know, it gets into feedlots and a number of things. So in our working relationship and in the networks that are being built, we run across people that are very interested in those types of development and have a great deal of expertise. So if we're asked to help do that, we'd be more than happy to do that. So how does a tribal member get involved in agriculture? Our answer to that is a demonstration farm. We need to create a demonstration farm that will be a learning ground for anybody that is interested to come and see how it's done. And for those people who are interested and want to learn how it's done and would help work that demonstration farm, if they want to take a few acres of their own and start to do that, then we would help them do that. One of the biggest barriers that is in place for tribal people getting involved in agriculture is, how do you market it? What do you do with that produce? It doesn't keep, right? It comes off the field and something has to happen right away. We don't have any processing sheds for that. Okay, so we're going to create a processing shed as a part of that demonstration farm. And that processing shed is going to be available for tribal people or for anybody that wants to use it to be able to process their produce, get the field heat off of it, get it ready to ship, and get it to market. So how do you get it to market? How do you penetrate those markets? We're going to build that as well. That's an important part of it. We're going to build a brand name for that so that people will know when they go to the store and they see the brand name, they're going to know, A, it's organic, it's grown in a sustainable fashion. B, they're going to know that it comes from the Flathead Reservation. And C, it's not going to cost them anything more. In fact, it's going to be cheaper than a lot of the processed chemical-laden foods that are there. It's kind of a misnomer that it costs more to grow things organically than it does with chemicals. It's just the opposite. You can grow things cheaper organically than you can with chemicals. So that we're going to kick around some different ideas for that brand name, but literally a tribal member wanting to be involved would have a demonstration farm where they could come and learn how to do that. When they want to get involved with it, we will help them lay it out. When it comes time to sharing the costs of equipment or even labor, when it comes time to pull that crop off of the field and process it, we'll have that available for them, and we will have a ready-made market for them to be able to sell to. They don't have to do any of that. All they have to do is grow it. Okay. So we're kicking around some different ideas and in terms of name. One of them that we found out that is available, and keep in mind, we're talking about a non-tribal market that we're marketing to, right? American Roots. If you Google American Roots, you won't find anything about agriculture. You'll find something about t-shirts. There's an American Roots t-shirt company that's out there, but nothing in agriculture. There's nothing called Native Roots. Okay, there's nothing called Ancestors' Choice. So you know, there's different ideas and different themes that we're kicking around. But one of the things we have found out about already is that there are buyers that are out there for large chains across the United States. I mean, this isn't about just producing the food that we need to consume here. This is about creating a brand and a level of produce that is going to serve a national market. And the national buyers are out there. and they are already interested. I don't know if anybody's said this or not, and when I say anybody, Fred, who has come here and done a couple of different reports to the council in the last few years, Fred Billings, our subject matter expertise in agriculture. The largest producer of pinto beans wants us to produce pinto beans and will buy every bean that we can produce because of where we live and because of the types of pinto beans that can be grown in this area that are superior to where all of the other pinto beans are being grown. So there's different opportunities like that are available, and we will solve that problem so that a tribal member doesn't have to market their own produce. That market will already exist for them. And the demonstration farm will help not just their knowledge in growing it, but the demonstration farm will also create the market for them at the same time. Kind of a long-winded answer, but you knew it was coming, right?
James, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I'm not there, Greg. I have some ill family I've been taking care of and managing. I was going to tease you and say if it wasn't a long-winded answer, I'd be kind of worried about you. Just teasing. But Greg, thank you for reporting. I think often the tribes, we don't often do real well at figuring out how to encourage entrepreneurship with our folks and our membership, different things that, sometimes we get in this mind, the tribe's got to do it. The tribe's got to be the one. Well, we all are part of the tribes, and it's not the tribal government isn't always the answer for everything. But I think if there's any way that we can come alongside your effort and encourage and be supportive, that's my heart, not to step in and do what you all are doing, but to come alongside and be a support and an encouragement. And, if it's figuring out the best way to utilize Bison Springs, and let's do that. And I, grew up part of my childhood at Coeur d'Alene Reservation, and we would take the bus next to and go past the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Farm every day. And I often wonder why, we have individual producers here on the reservation, but we never quite had kind of a collective effort. So this isn't the tribal government effort that you're talking about, but it sure is a community effort. And it definitely is a minority in even the Monsantos of the world, in the general agricultural industry of the world, particularly the United States. It's moving away from the small mom and pop farmers to these gigantic conglomerates. So, I think, we lose control of our food production, and we're subjected to whatever they put in those foods and the processes. And I think, that's something that food sovereignty is trying to do, is get our arms around that a little more, to where we know where our food's coming from, we know what we're putting into it. And so I'm really encouraged by your efforts, and just, any way we can support, or I can support, I'm definitely wholeheartedly with you on that. Thanks.
And thank you. What we need in order to move forward, we're going after a grant of USDA as well as foundation funding as a nonprofit, to be able to make this thing happen. And one of the issues that we ran up against is we're not going to be able to demonstrate our viability to move things forward in the commercial arena if we don't have the land secured for a demonstration farm. And that's when it became apparent to us that we were going to have to come forward at some point in time to the tribal council and talk about that, so that we could through a lease agreement, business lease, or whatever works for you, for a nonprofit, to be able to show that we have secured the land for the demonstration farm and include that in our grant applications that will provide all of the funding necessary to do this. We don't expect tribal people are going to have the money in their pockets to be able to get something like this started. And we're not asking the tribal council or tribal government to come up with funding to get something like this started. As a grassroots effort, as something that is being built by and for tribal people, quite frankly, I believe that it would be easier for us to get funding as a grassroots organization than it would for us to get funding as a division of tribal government. And I don't say that in a derogatory fashion, but we're finding a great deal of interest and support for our approach. Not as a part of tribal government, but as tribal people and working with tribal government. So anyway, so we'll be looking for a lease or something like that to help us secure the funding so that we can get this thing moving forward. Our intent is to have that ready to roll next spring, be the first growing season in 2025.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Love all of the thoughts, all of the ideas, getting our people, to be self-sufficient with their food but I don't know, am I wrong? I thought that Buffalo Springs was already slotted for food sovereignties. I don't think that piece is available. I guess, have you talked to Lands and Food Sovereignty Program?
Both.
In Jordan?
Yes.
And I guess I just would assume it would be Mark bringing
Yep.
this in and requesting the lease. So I guess we need to dot all of our i's and cross our t's before we can make a commitment, I would assume, to that. So
yes,
Lands is up next, and
so here's what's transpired over the last, mostly in the last 6 months. We started working out an agreement, a memorandum of understanding with food sovereignty that would basically say, here's what ICC is going to be doing and here's what food sovereignty is going to be doing, so that we could sync our efforts, right? In the process of talking about that, the issue of commercial agriculture then jumped into place. And so we started talking about how we could collaboratively go after some of the grant funding, so forth and so on, that could be done there. And then that is when the availability, if you will, of Bison Springs first surfaced. We went out and took a look at it and came up with a plan for it and worked it all out, if you will, from a business standpoint, and it all pencils out. It's a logical spot for any one of a number of reasons, and I would rather have Fred Billings talk to you about all of those reasons than me try to capture that. But it would work out. And so we've been working with food sovereignty to figure out the best way to be able to approach that. Herein lies the tricky part, and that is that what we are doing from a grassroots economic development effort up. And a part of that is commercial agriculture and working with tribal people from the ground up, not from the top down, from tribal government down, right? But in order to be able to get funding for that, and in order to be able to show that we could in fact put together a demonstration farm, we need to come to the owner of that land, being the tribes, to work out some kind of a deal to do that. In order to do that, we need to work out some kind of a deal with food sovereignty. How that takes place, that allows us to be able to move forward in a bottom-up effort as opposed to establishing a tribally run and operated farm, right? We're talking about doing that not as an extension of tribal government, but in collaboration with tribal government. Okay, so that's what Jordan, Casey, Josh, and I have been kicking around for the better part of 6 months.
Other questions? I know I participated as much as I could in the community garden at Hot Springs and surprising what you can grow on an old piece of clay.
Yeah. So are we on the right track? Is the Indian Commerce Campsite on the right track to move forward and be looking at a commercial operation that would be using tribal land, Bison Springs or otherwise? Because if it doesn't make sense to you and is something that you're not interested in or whatever, then we're just wasting our time, and that we're not interested in doing that. So I'm really just looking for, does this make sense to y'all? Are we headed in the right direction? Do you want us to come back? And
I've been growing potatoes as long as I can remember and chased out of the garden when I was a kid all the time. Always been looking at having production of our own food, and so I definitely support the effort that's going forward. I don't know about everybody else. I know Martin was looking at community gardens at one time. Go ahead, Martin.
I mean, I would like to see an actual proposal. I'd like to hear from Jordan, from Lance. This seems a lot like duplicating what we're already doing. And so that's my dilemma. You know, it's a great idea, but our food sovereignty program is doing a pretty good job, and that's been built from the very, ground up. And so partnering with them would be great, but I want to make sure that that's all. I mean, today we had a $20 million grant that was, submitted, and we didn't even know about it. And so I don't feel confident in approving anything without seeing things.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt this was an important first step before sitting down here with food sovereignty in front of you with a formal agreement, that spells stuff out because, my bad perhaps, but Indian Commerce Campsite, this is the first time we've sat down and talked to the council about the overall initiative, the overall effort. So I just felt it was important to do that and to figure out if there's a viable path forward. If it's something that you're interested in, we will sit right here with food sovereignty in agreement and say, here's what we're proposing for next steps.
Before Tom, all the growing that's happened with the community gardens, that's all been from your nonprofit, right? Basically, you brought Fred Billings in to do that.
Yes.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been incredible during my career to watch Department of Agriculture funding opportunities come and go and to not see the tribes realize anything from them. And so I don't know how many times I go talk to Herb Webb. I said, God dang it, Herb. He was the extension agent down here working in the lands department. And how come we didn't apply for that? How come the tribes didn't get that? How come we didn't do that? And it's just this incredible blah, it's just underrepresented. It's that whole settlement that we came out with. And actually I asked Jordan if he was going to apply for a grant because there's in that discrimination case against native farmers and black farmers, discriminating against them on ag loans. I can't remember what it was. There was a settlement awarded, and it's to a foundation in the Northwest here. And our tribes have never even applied for the money, and they're just waiting for us. It sunsets, I think, next year, and it's another grant opportunity. You should look at that one. God, I can't remember the name. I got it in my notes.
you can apply for that, we cannot. And when
Yeah,
I say
right.
we, I'm talking about a tribal member.
Right, no, I
with a
mean, but food
nonprofit.
sovereignty should look at that, and I brought it to Jordan, how come we're not applying for this? And so there's been, since 1983, working here, it's been a missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. And so, I mean, I'll just say this because I think I heard one of our interviews. How come we don't have a Department of Ag? We have a lands department. And so we've just been missing the thing. And you think about what's coming at us right now with the embargoes and under Trump, and there's food's going up. I'll tell you that right now. And because we import so much food from out of country, like, you think strawberries are expensive now, just wait till next year. But so it's more critical all the time that we grow our own food. And when you talk about profitability, it's locally grown and you're starting to do it. And Trump does these tariffs on all this imports, even though we're considered the breadbasket of the world, our food prices are going to be going up, and it makes it even more marketable or more success for our own program here. And we got to start somewhere. And so I know it was great. I think Martin's got a valuable point. We need to see some structure to it, but I'm wholly supportive of it and what everybody's working on. So I don't think we can go wrong with it. It just, can it be big enough? I mean, we're already doing native fish keepers. So we're capturing a product grown on our reservation in Flathead Lake, and we're marketing that everywhere. And it exceeds its ability to provide for the demand. And when you think about casinos or college institutions, they'll set mandates to buy locally, to buy from a native nonprofit corporation. That's a huge market right there. It could be a market through the Park Service. They were just here. They actually have a program, at least in some parks, that they buy for their concessionaires, that they buy local food or food that's from a native locally area or even native tribes.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things to get into. I just think it's a growing market. Absolutely. Got to be. And we're not getting less mouths in the world. We're getting more mouths in the world. So it's just a matter of getting water on that landscape and getting management. I would like to see a job bundled so we have people that get the full suite of opportunities, from working at the fish keepers up at Blue Bay to learning how to do that and fillet fish and process those, and to working at the new meat processing plant, work down at Buffalo Springs Farm, and working wherever. I'd like to see a collage of experience for our memberships to look at that. So yeah. I think it's a growth possibilities. Anyway.
If the tribal council wants to create a Department of Agriculture, that's great. I mean, so be it. I'm not I'm saying yay or nay to that at all. All I am trying to do is to figure out a way to create an opportunity for tribal people to get involved in that and not run into, I call it the Yakima juice problem. You guys ever heard of Yakima juice? Right? Some of the best apple orchards in the world over there, right? I mean, years ago, they went and bought a bottling plant and set it up right there in their orchards. And they were going to make the greatest juice in the world and sell it to all the tribal casinos everywhere. Ready-made market, right? The casinos are locked up by two beverage companies. One is Coca-Cola and the other one is Pepsi. They absolutely prohibited, because of their franchise agreements with those casinos, prohibited the casinos from bringing in something that was not a Coca-Cola product or a Pepsi product. Yakima juice was neither. They couldn't get it in the casino. Okay. Now, that is an illustration of a problem that tribal people would experience in trying to get into produce production, right? So clearing that path and creating that market is not really quite as simple as it looks, but it is something that needs to be done in order for tribal people to be able to have a successful experience in growing produce. If they can't get it to market, and I mean now, it is perishable, right? It's all going to fall apart. So that's what we're talking about.
Any other questions? Thanks, Greg.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it very much.
Yeah. Perhaps I can get back here before the next 4 years comes around, so. All right. Thank you all. I hope there weren't people here when I started talking because they all left.
Bing, you wanted to bring up the, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I talked with Carrie here today, but yesterday I was called by a tribal member and he wanted to see if we could extend the hunting over in Ferry Basin until the end of December. And Carrie thought maybe we probably could do that because there was not too many elk taken out of there. Said with migration coming up, there might be a few more being able to take out of there because the elk's gonna start moving a little bit more and more are gonna come in. He said from off the reservation, but not, she said, so maybe that would be, we'd be able to do that if, to go to the end of the year on it anyway.
Any thoughts there? I don't see a problem. Have we did it before?
Yeah.
And the year before. Shall we take action then, even right now? There'll be a motion then, Bing?
Yep.
Motion by Bing to extend the hunt in Prairie Basin until this end of December. Second by Lynn. All in favor? I think we're good. Unanimous. Mark, you're wanting executive, aren't you? We'll go out of regular into executive and we have the drawing to do. Items. That's the way I advertised it. With the real possibility of somebody turning it down, I would say we should draw a first, a second, maybe a third name.
I believe the first action item that we had on the docket was to resurplus the Big Arm Kitchen to KCC. Approve or deny or further discussion.
Surplus kitchen. Got a motion by Lynn, second by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous.
No, that'll be the second. We won't do that. Action. I'll make a motion on that. Next item up for an action item is to move forward with discussions on the Pablo gravel pit with Greg and council.
No, I don't think we need an action on that.
Just go ahead and
you better find
just
out.
directive
Yeah, just
from us.
get the information.
All right, I'll set that up with him. Action item to sell the one rental out at home Kicking Horse to Rhoda at fair market rate of an estimated value of home. We can get an appraisal done on that to move forward with that. So we'd need an action item to move forward with the appraisal of the home valuation.
Motion by Bing, second by Jennifer. All in favor? Len? Len's abstaining at 2, 4, 6, 4. James, 4.
Yep.
Thank you.
And our last action item is to draw for the winner of the hay. So we will draw in front of the camera.
Go ahead, Tom.
How many, names? were-
17.
Can we go through all 17, go to the last 16th? So you can go to each one of them and offer it to each one of them?
We'll go right down the list.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to come and draw them? Or do you want me to? One at a time and read the name off.
Sorry.
Jennifer
Tran.
Bryant
Bryant
Snyder.
Liz Corville.
Elizabeth Corville.
Brianna Stead.
Adriana Stedman.
Nick Claremont.
Nick Claremont.
Good.
Maggie Good.
Lorraine.
Lorraine Johnson.
Brian Big Sam.
Brian Big Sam.
Nick Left Hand.
Nick Left Hand. Shonda Alberts.
Billy Stevens.
Willie Stevens. Ann Gray.
Deb King.
Deborah King.
George Duchamp.
George Ducharme.
Duran
Doran Dumont.
Dubois.
Wayne McCoy.
Sheila Mann.
Shayla Matt. No, Sheila Matt. Sheila Matt. No, not Shayla, Sheila. I know, I'm gonna say that to her next time I talk to her on the phone.
Person.
Nancy Eartham.
Oh, Eastham.
Eastham. Nice spelling there, girl.
E-A.
That doesn't look like a
Yeah.
East.
Brad Johnson.
Brad Johnson. That'll be your next one down there.
Rhonda Hendren.
Rhonda Hendren
Chris McDonald.
and Chris McDonald. She lied, there were 20 individuals. Chris McDonald. So we will go through the list from the first drawing for the first individual and work our way down until if they accept it. We'll go from there.
I suspect someone's going to accept it, given that name.
Yeah. I thank you guys for your time. Tried to get you guys out as quick as I could.
Wayne Peterson was the one who was supposed to get that from Alan. The airplane pilot, Wayne. Wayne Peterson.
Wayne. Okay. I will get an update to you guys as soon as I can on that one.
Thanks, Mike.
And the family. With that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, you want to be in the executive?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick action item. With the exception of law and order in the pharmacy, I'd like to make a motion that we release the employees tomorrow at 2:00 for early Thanksgiving holiday.
was actually thinking 3 myself. Got a motion to let out early tomorrow at 2. Second by Jennifer. All in favor? Works. Shahoy.